if they turn the Uno movie into like a Saw Squid Games type deal. You draw 4 limbs.
How did you survive this long?
I had a wild card. Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Content, my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woozcroft.
So here are all the people that I think are on Jeffrey Epstein's list that never were named. Oh, wait, we're live, right? Yeah. No, never mind. I can't.
No, we're not. I mean, no. Yes. For those of you who are listening to the episode after the fact and watching this on YouTube, yes, we are playing around with some live things here. Shame on you for watching after the fact or listening after the fact. Why weren't you on our Instagram account or our YouTube account?
You should have watched us play with ourselves.
Slackers. Yeah, you could have seen that. That would have happened. That happened before we even clicked live. You just missed it. But John, we're at episode 301, and it is, last time I looked, February, almost March. So might as well, late than never, talk about some 2023 movies that happened and just review 2023 and the films that were. And mainly we're doing this because, like, I mentioned this to John beforehand, but January, February was kind of a rough couple of months. Like, I went to Podfest. We had to plan episode 300. We got to watch Driveway Dolls and kind of do that review. So we had a lot of things like just happen. It's like at the end of the year, and like starting it is always rough. So
I find it so odd how it can feel like it's been so long but so quick at the same time.
I know, right?
I think it's like making me bipolar. I swear. It's like, wait, it's only February, but at the same time, I'm like, how did the time go by so fast? So those are contradictory thoughts, but here we are. And I think we got in just in the cusp, Brian. I think people will still care about our thoughts about 2023. It's not like we're doing this in June. I think we're good.
Yeah, you got a point there. We're not doing this in June. It'd be weird if we did this in June and they were just like, hey, we're going to talk about 2023. Like, dude, we're halfway through this year. Yeah. So, basically, I'm letting John lead on this one because you're in essence the master of the recap. Like, every year that we've done this where we review our films, John literally you have time to see almost all the movies. And then two, are really good at like summarizing how shitty of a film year it was, because I think that's kind of the consensus, or sometimes good, but more often than not shitty. So, John, what do you got for 2023?
Well, let's hit up the big entertainment stories of the year. It's better than any other place to start. I have it written down here as Taylor Swift made more money than God.
Oh, dude. I am glad you brought that up because one, did you see the Eras tour?
I did not. Like, the only reason that I would have ended up there would have been if Christine was a fan. She's not really a fan, so there was nobody that I would have gone there with unless I wanted to like pull a Pee-wee in the back, aisle or something. But I'm not really that into Taylor either. So
I love the fact that you brought a Pee-wee.
Somebody we lost in 2023. There, I mentioned one person we lost.
You got one. You got one in. But no, like for me, I do have family members that are into Taylor Swift. My daughter is a Swiftie, and my wife is also a Swiftie, and my stepson also is a Swiftie as well. So like it's totally a thing where I did have to go and watch the Eras tour, which I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the concert film. It's just not my thing. I don't find it that entertaining, but I really liked it, and it was very impressive, and it was an event. I went to just a theater just down the street. I went to the South Hills Village theater, and it was packed. It was absolutely packed. So, and to kind of talk a little bit about Taylor Swift, I have an appreciation for how she basically gave the film industry a giant middle finger.
How so?
What do you mean? Oh, well, how it ended up happening was, she, in essence, skirted the traditional means of getting a film into a theater. And honestly, it's really only because Taylor has the pull that she can do it. So she, in essence, went directly to AMC. She went to AMC theaters directly and said, I want to put my concert in your theater, which is unheard of because of the fact that traditionally, if a movie wants to be shown in theaters, they go through a film distributor like a Warner Brothers or a Cinedigm or something like that. And that's how you get your movie into the theater. It's unheard of for an independent producer. I mean, it's hard to kind of call Taylor Swift an independent producer, but she is an independent producer. She's not a film studio or anything like that. So she, in essence, was able to go around Hollywood, tell them to fuck off, and put out her movie, her concert, directly in theaters.
But moving on from that, let's talk about, I think this year, more than any year, the term Nepo babies really kind of took off.
How do you want to describe what that is for the uninitiated?
So I think it really comes down to, irregardless, and I know some people out there.
That's not a word.
Regardless.
There you go.
That even if the person has talent, the idea that they got into the business at all was because of family members. In this particular business, we're talking the film industry. So somebody like Jamie Lee Curtis was the daughter of two very famous people. You look at Chet Hanks was in A Man Called Otto because his father's Tom Hanks, who's also in the movie. So basically getting a leg up in this case, show business because of who you're related to. But I think that's just, isn't that any business? Like, I'm the fourth generation of this plumbing company because my great grandfather started it. I think there's Nepo babies in any line of work, but I still think it's hilarious that somebody like Jamie Lee Curtis gets all pissed off when it's mentioned.
I mean, isn't that what the term family business means? Like, that's literally the definition of a Nepo baby. I don't see a problem with it personally. Just because, like, I mean, it happens everywhere. It literally happens everywhere. You can't escape that. And Hollywood more than any industry has always been about who you know, and it just so happens that who these people know are related to them.
I think it also comes down to how much talent does the person actually have as well. Like,
well, I mean, John, we're living in the age of Kardashians, so I mean,
yeah,
talent that's a word with air quotes, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, look at both of Tom Hanks' son, Colin and Chet. Colin is actually, I think,
he's a good actor. Yeah,
Chet is like, he's like Digger the Dermatophyte from the toe fungus commercial. He has that kind of range, but so it's a matter of how good is the person on top of how they got a leg up in this business. And I really wish my grandfather was Augustus McGillicuddy Woolscroft, famous TriStar, executive producer, and I could just be like, get me in show business, grandpa, but
you mean you don't want Louis B. Mayer to be your great grandfather? Nope. I mean, I just kind of close out that point, John. Like, do you think that Nepo babies, in essence, hurt this industry, or is it just one of those things where it's just like, it's there, can't really escape it?
I think it's just part of it. Yeah. I don't even know what the plan is on calling out Nepo babies. Is it trying to get rid of people who got in the business because of who their father is or something? I don't know what the goal is there. Maybe it's just to point out, certain people have luxuries and step up over people, and that should be acknowledged. That's the only thing I can think of. It's like the underpants gnome. Step 1, point out Nepo baby. Step 3, profit. I don't know what step 2 is, but
no, I don't know either. Yeah, I mean, I guess I look at it as it's just part of the industry.
Yeah,
and
it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No. As long as there are businesses, you will always have nepotism there. Yeah. It's just, that's how it works.
Wait, what is Drew Barrymore, 4th generation?
Yeah, I think 4th. Yeah, I think 4th. But she needs to do one of her grandfather's old film or great grandfather's old films, and that is be like Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, see, I thought you were gonna say she should play Mr. Potter and It's a Wonderful Life remake.
No, I was gonna say be like, John Barrymore and go all Jekyll and Hyde. Or technically, she kind of did during the strike.
Do we want to use that as a segue?
We could. So there was a couple strikes this year. A couple.
First and foremost, the writers' strike, and then the Screen Actors Guild kind of joined them in solidarity. And okay, I just want to say this for anybody out there who thinks everybody who works in Hollywood, for lack of just that, using that as an overall term, is automatically rich.
You mean they aren't?
Some guy who's writing an episode of BoJack Horseman probably gets like $2,500 for the script. And then when you got to pay rent and get groceries, that goes away pretty quick. Unless you're the head writer of a show that was huge in its time, like Everybody Loves Raymond or Friends or whatever is popular now. I'm old. I don't know what people like on network television. Unless you're the head writer there, you're probably just working paycheck to paycheck. And that's if they buy a script from you.
Well, it's also worth mentioning, John, that, even actors even people who are like not necessarily leading actors, but just actors who are, above background actors, like they're featured extras, they make nothing on any royalties from those projects.
Well, and it's funny you should mention royalties. I mean, I think everybody gets the idea of royalties, but just as quickly as I can, every time that they're able to rerun an episode of a show or re-release a movie or sell, a DVD or Blu-ray, like tangible copies, then people get residual income from what they worked on in that. And one of the biggest issues with this strike was there is no way, at least not yet, to understand how to calculate residual income for streaming. Like if somebody watches The Office like 35 times a day while they're working. And so basically streamers like Netflix and all that went, we're not even going to try to figure it out. Screw you guys and your residuals. Just keep giving us your scripts. And they went, how about fuck you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's in essence what they did was they said, fuck you. And more power to them. Because again, as you kind of pointed out, the film industry is not the glamorous one that you see, right? Like it's not that. The film industry is an industry, right? Like it is actual real work. It is not just
show business.
yes, there is real work. And you and I have both been on sets and we have done back-breaking labor, right? Stuff that is, 12 to 16 hour days at times. And that's the norm. It's also one of the reasons why I don't do on-set stuff. I'm a post person for that reason. But even that is a lot of labor. And I think the strike, the people who got the strike understood that. People who constantly didn't just kind of had the same old adage of, oh, well, they're just being lazy. They want more money and they're selfish. And let's be honest here. You're angry because you're currently in a job that is not paying you what you're worth. And that's what it all boils down to. Anyone who's projection. That's projection. So yeah, people who are like, I'm completely against this strike. I'm completely against this strike. They're not angry at the strikers. They're angry at the fact that they're stuck in a job that treats them like shit.
And do remember, dear listeners and watchers, for every Brad Pitt, there's 1,000 working actors struggling to pay the rent. For every Aaron Sorkin, there's 1,000 writers struggling to pay the rent. It might as well even be more than the 1.0% of people that are billionaires. It's like 1% of Hollywood are the ones you see on the Academy Award red carpet. The rest of them are just trying to get by like any other profession.
Well, the other thing too, John, that the strike was mostly about was the role of AI, right? Like,
oh yeah.
The big, 400-pound gorilla in the room that you love it or hate it, and I'm still on the fence.
Robotic plagiarism.
I don't know about you. I'm still on the fence. You're not.
AI can eat my butt. It's robotic plagiarism. That's all it is.
I don't know if I call it robotic plagiarism. I call it a dummy who's smart enough to push the buttons, and that's about it. But here's where I see uses in it, and this is again coming from someone who's in post production. So I see uses in making my life easier for a project in terms of doing things that are kind of manual-ish type labor. Okay, so like I'll give you an example. I use in my day job a piece of software called TimeBolt, and I love this piece of software. It basically allows me to very quickly choose clips within a long stream of a shoot, and I do it mostly for YouTube style videos, right? And I'm able to very quickly cut out silences, isolate just the clips that I want. I press one button because I basically take that, and it's generated from AI, right? I take that, bring it into Premiere, press a button, and it automatically cuts up my A-roll for me. Now, you could say, well, Brian, that's like, robotic plagiarism. I call it as saving me quite literally at sometimes an hour, if not an hour and a half, doing A-roll. And in that case, AI is awesome. Where I don't think it's awesome is when people take creativity and call what AI gives you creativity, because it's not.
And it seems like it's a growing thing from, I remember, just even 5 or 6 years ago, there were those really hilarious, like, we ran it through a computer of like, 100 different Olive Garden commercials, and this is the script it came up with. And it is the most bizarre thing, like as if an alien wrote it. But now we've gone beyond that, and it's not chucklesome anymore. It's almost, oh, could this come off as real people now? That's what kind of worries me. And also, let's not hire actual people creativity. Let's let a robot do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem. And I think that all comes down to what this strike was about was, making sure that in our creative arts that it is formed by people and not machines. Because let's be honest here, some hedge fund, guy up in New York is not going to give two shits about the creativity of a film. They're going to give two shits about whether or not they're able to deliver that movie on time and under budget. And if they can cut out the creative process in it and just have a stupid machine do it for them, then they will. They don't care. And I think that was a big part of this. Now, I have heard that some of the people who were in on the strike were not 100% happy with the outcome, because in essence what they did was they didn't do an outright ban on AI actors. It was more or less like you can, I guess, rent your likeness and I guess you get compensated for your likeness. So I guess that's good.
Well, hasn't James Earl Jones sold the
digital
version of his own voice?
Yes, he did. And that's why in the Obi-Wan series, it sounded different than in the Rogue One movie. And it's because the Rogue One was actually James Earl Jones, whereas the one we saw in Obi-Wan was just, that was the AI. That was a robot.
Yeah. Woof.
Creepy.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, well, speaking of dumbass, unoriginal ideas for dumbass people, let's talk about the slow continuing death of the comic book movie.
Oh, I'm glad you brought this up.
Wow. I mean, there was a time where they could release Marvel's Fart, and it could just be Chris Pratt's ass farting for 3 hours, and it would make $1 billion. Now,
that's true.
Now they can't buy a win. And now, well, obviously now they can DC, to the point where DC just folded up tent and went, we give up. We're restarting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you've got now is this revival of people saying, oh yeah, Marvel's going to be back now because of the Deadpool Wolverine movie.
The satire movie that, won't really have any connection to anything else. Yeah. Good luck hanging your hat on that. I mean, I'm sure it'll do well, but it's not the savior of Marvel.
Oh, if you heard the fans, John, they're all saying that movie's the savior of Marvel. Here's the problem is that when you have a movie that people are calling the savior of Marvel, then you're done. like you're just done. You're done with that. I mean, look at 2023. Outside of maybe Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the movies that were released were stinkers. Just utter stinkers. You know?
I'm not, I think a few of them, a few of them ended up on my worst movies of the year list. So we'll
I didn't. Here's the thing: I still have not seen the Marvels yet.
I didn't either. Honestly, I just didn't care.
That was it too. Like when it came time to watch it, I'm just like,
and it's a lot.
That's a lot to go out to the theater.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even get through Echo. I got through one episode of Echo, and I was just like, yeah, I'm done.
I think honestly, Falcon and the Winter Soldier might be the last show I watched, and that was what, like 2.5 years ago now.
Or I watched. You didn't watch Loki at all? Loki
I did watch Loki, but I didn't watch season 2. I didn't watch Strange Invasion or whatever it's called. Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
I tried watching the Hawkeye show, and I didn't purposely give up, but I just was so bored. The
Hawkeye show was I think 22. I don't think it was this year or last year.
Well, just in general, it's because it's a continuing, ongoing process. And there's probably like 3 or 4 other shows that I didn't even mention that they're overwhelming us. I think it's the product of the movies are slowly not doing as good as they have in theaters, and they bring actuarians in there to kind of say, this is going to be a continuing thing. You should focus more on just doing it on a smaller budget for Disney Plus to get the subscribers up for Disney Plus. And so they just kind of inundated us where it used to be 3 or 4 movies a year. Now it's 3 or 4 movies a year and 4 TV shows. And they treat their product like a drug. Like you have to watch everything, or else you're not going to get the kick. You're not going to get the effect that you want, because you're not going to know everything that's going on.
Are you calling Disney a drug dealer?
Oh, maybe. Oh, the shoe fits. Yeah. So
I mean, here's my contention on it is there are some series on Disney Plus that I actually really do like. But the past couple ones have been really shitty. I liked Moon Knight. I tried really hard to like Secret Invasion, because it kind of gives us a little bit of Nick Fury kick, which we really haven't had. But outside of that, it was really boring and just not fun at all. So, I mean, I didn't enjoy that. What was it? Oh, Loki season 2, I really did like. I liked Loki season 2.
Did She-Hulk come out this year, or was that last year?
That was last year.
Okay. I don't even remember when these things come out. That's how far behind I am.
Yeah. I didn't mind She-Hulk, but I know that a lot of people have like pointed at it as like, kind of the downfall of Marvel, which I don't think is fair.
You know what? I think a little bit of sexism is in play there, because basically She-Hulk is the female version of Deadpool in a way, but apparently breaking the fourth wall and satirizing the stuff and being silly is fine for Deadpool, but not when it's a woman.
Nope, can't do that.
Oh, Missy, you go back, start baking pies, you green bitch, get in the kitchen. Apparently. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I just know that the real movie for me that I thought was the downfall of Marvel specifically, I mean, the Ant-Man one was pretty bad. It wasn't as bad as some people said it was, but it wasn't that great either.
The quantum hernia or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, that one was just like, that was an experience. I mean, but I still stand by our review that we did, where we literally said, like, this is not supposed to be a deep fucking movie, so quit making it a deep fucking movie.
Well, I think a big problem too is that, and I'll just put this one to bed, is that they think they can make a movie about any character in their catalog, and after you get past, like, there's a reason when Marvel gave up all the rights when they were near bankruptcy, the first movies that were made were X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and the Hulk. Those are the Mount Rushmore of casual audience know who these people are. When you're getting to Shang-Chi and the what was the one with Angelina Jolie? The I don't even remember.
Oh, Eternals.
Yeah, the Eternals, and
Fucking hate that movie so much.
and Ant-Man successful just only because people love Paul Rudd so much. People don't read Ant-Man comics, like unless you're super into comics. Like, their reliance on who's left do we have to make movies about. That's when you run into trouble. And I think it's just gonna continue that way, because Captain America's old now and Iron Man's dead, and all these things, like all of their primary characters are over. And I'm pretty sure what's his face is probably done playing the Hulk now that he's gotten a solo. Mark Ruffalo hasn't gotten a solo movie since the never, because it was Ed Norton the first time. So
I think there's reason why he can't do a solo movie. I think it's because of, I think Sony might own it. Sony or Paramount might own it. I definitely know that there is a studio issue on why there can't be a Hulk solo film.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. There's a reason. It's kind of like the Spider-Man deal where Sony can't make a Spider-Man movie, but they can have like the licensing for all the Spider-Man like side characters, the ones no one really cares about.
There's another
like
thing
Madam Web.
Yeah. Like Kraven the Last Hunter, which got delayed. Madam Web that's out now, which I know is 2024. But Morbius, like there's another Sony is the third wheel, as the RC Cola of
they're the bargain bin of
Yeah.
comic book films.
Wish.com presents comic books.
The Temu of comic book movies.
Hey, they had a lot of money to spend at the Super Bowl.
That's what I didn't watch the Super Bowl, so I wouldn't know. But let's talk a little bit about what we were looking forward to, which was the Flash movie. And oh, John. I mean, I had to bring it up. I had to.
Let's talk about Flash, baby. Let's talk about Ezra Miller being crazy.
I got to point out a comment on here because, again, we're doing this live. Custom Cars 98 said more like Dark Horse. I agree. They talking about the Temu.
Hey, comics aren't bad.
They're not terrible.
So
they're not terrible,
Spawn, right?
Yeah, they got Spawn.
Wait, is that Element? I don't know.
I think it was Image. I think that's
Image. Yeah. Never mind. I'm not even. Yeah, Dark Horse. You're right.
Sure, we'll go with that. But yeah, Flash. What's there to say? It was the movie that we got that really was a fucking shitstorm.
Well, there's an episode of The Simpsons
outside of Michael Keaton.
Yeah, who was awesome. But there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer saves the nuclear power plant by accident, and it gets to the point where they see him as a hero, but at the end they find out that he just lucked it out, and they started saying like, "Oh, you pulled a Homer," and everybody in the episode, like Magic Johnson's a voice in it, and he trips and misses accidentally hits the game-winning shot while he was falling over and goes, "Looks like I pulled a Homer." So I wonder if in the future, if there's a huge $250 million comic book movie where they try to bring out all the old stars and stuff, and it fails horribly. I wonder if they're going to say they really flashed it,
or they really Ezra Millered it.
Yeah,
I mean that movie. I mean, I said this in our review of The Flash, but outside of Michael Keaton, who could do no wrong as Batman, it was a movie that had dialogue and characters that I didn't really give two shits about. It usurped its own plot. Like, it literally usurped its own plot. The end of it basically makes its whole plot and the meaning of the plot moot. Like, it basically like said, fuck you for the past 2.5 hours. And the visual effects were some of the worst things I've seen outside of maybe Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Well, Matrix retinkered or whatever.
No. I mean, I'm going full for the jugular. It was Mortal Kombat Annihilation level.
Yikes.
It's that bad.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up here, we can't not talk about stories. We can't not mention Barbenheimer.
We're still wrapping up. Yeah, we're at 34
well,
minutes
we're wrapping
so
up
far.
the stories part.
Yes.
We got to get to some.
We got to get to
stats
some
and-
stats and stuff.
Yeah.
Barbenheimer. Yeah, I guess that would be probably the biggest movie story.
Two of the biggest grossing movies of the year, and I love how Hollywood can't tell when something organic happens from the people.
They're people.
Just two completely different types of movies, but still, you could say, aimed at the same audience, like just in by same audience, I mean adults. You can go and want to laugh at the Barbie movie and go and see the serious bomb movie as an adult because you have layers. Adults are like onions. There's layers. But
Wait a minute. You mean, John, that I can enjoy my existential dread about nuclear war while also supporting women and, kind of seeing a female icon on screen? Like I could do both.
Well, see, I have an existential dread about nuclear war, but also the way that Ryan Gosling's abs make me feel.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, they tried to do it again when Saw X and the Paw Patrol movie were coming out, and they tried to do hashtags Saw Patrol, and it's like
that is hilarious,
guys. That is a puppy movie for infants, and and a torture porn movie. Now, maybe the intellect of both audiences is roughly the same, but that doesn't mean that people are going to go to see them back to back.
Well, what gets me about the whole Barbenheimer shit is that you mentioned that studio executives took the wrong message from it. So like you have now people at Mattel who are like, let's do an Uno movie. Let's do
RC Car the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Like what the fuck? Like that wasn't the point. That's not it. The point isn't you take, Uno and turn it into a movie. Because it doesn't work that way.
It's fucking Uno.
It's Uno. That's it. Sometimes, I know this is hard to believe, sometimes games are games and sometimes toys are toys. And sometimes they don't have to be turned into movies. Like video games lend themselves to it. TV shows lend themselves to it. Iconic toys like Barbie lend themselves to it. But I'm sorry, even though Uno's been around for decades, it's still Uno.
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, Barbie is an actual modeled around a human being. And the idea is when kids play with Barbie, it's let's have her be an astronaut or president or have inner conflict with one of her friends or boyfriend. You're creating storylines about people. Uno is not. I'm sorry, my brain hurts because Uno is you don't come up with like, oh no, Uno card is mad at other Uno card because of insider trading. It's a goddamn game. Checkers the movie. Well, yeah, what's a fucking do that?
You know what would be funny is if they turn the Uno movie into like a Saw Squid Games type deal. You draw 4 limbs.
How did you survive this long? Uno. I got.
How did you survive this long? I had a wild card. Oh man, I think what was interesting for me about the whole Barbenheimer deal was that it brought people back to the cinema, especially after like the whole COVID shit, in a way that no other movie had been able to do. Like those two movies, I'm sure the theater owners are loving them, but those two movies did save cinema in a way that like we were told Christopher Nolan's, Tenet was going to save cinema, right? Like you remember that when Tenet came out and it's like, oh, this is the movie that's going to get people back in the theaters. And
major motion pictures are back in theaters.
And it's like, no, some mumblecore backwards talking man is not going to bring people back into the theaters, but just wait for his next film because that one will.
Tenet. It's like Inception if you were halfway asleep the whole time.
Very true. Yeah. Very true.
All right, let's just break down the highest grossing movies on a global level here. So not
Okay.
just domestic, but these are the highest grossing. I'll start at the lowest one and work my way out. Something I just want to say, I didn't take into consideration what was the budget of these movies, just how much they made. So surprisingly at number 10, because I don't know anybody that saw this, was Elemental.
Oh, I saw part of it. I watched part of it cuz it's a kids movie and I have children. But it looked kind of cute-ish.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought it went the way of Teenage Kraken or whatever that was called.
Oh, and it was called that, Teenage Kraken. And the problem is that the COVID pandemic kind of ruined Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks Animation, because those animators had to basically put their films directly onto streaming. Mm-hmm. And what that means is just that, you know, the studios got used to only putting them directly on streaming. So they're not like pushing them as they used to.
And to go back to our news story earlier, animators and special effects people get paid shit too, guys. So
animators and VFX artists get the short end of the stick every single time. Every single time. And I think during our Flash episode, we talked about this. We talked about why the effects were so bad, and part of it being because the fact that, quite honestly, the way the industry is set up supports studios taking advantage of artists in this regard and working them to fucking death. Yeah.
But on that note, it made $496 million. Number 9 was surprisingly Mission Impossible 32 Part 1 C C. That made $567 million. Didn't see it. Didn't care.
I didn't see it either.
You and I are really just kind of completely in sync about not giving a crap about Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible movies.
I'm gonna tell you what we missed, John. We missed Tom Cruise asked to fight some international bad guy or some sort of cabal of international people who tried to take over the world, and he runs for like 2.5 hours.
And he like drives a motorcycle on top of a plane that he actually was driving on because he was a stunt double.
I think with this one, it was he did some sort of hang gliding shit. Like that was his thing, was he did like some hang gliding shit while running, and you know he did it on himself because he has to justify his wages somehow.
I think he has a desire to kill himself. I really do. He's like, what special or what stunt can I do where I'll die? But I don't know.
Are you allegedly saying that Tom Cruise has a death wish?
I mean, if I was Tom Cruise, I would maybe not want to live anymore. But anyways.
Oh, that's mean.
Yeah. Little Mermaid. You're Sean, the wonderful animated one from our childhoods. No, fuckface. The live action remake made $569 million. Which
did you see it?
Yeah. I don't think like any of the live action ones that it added anything new. In fact, I think it lost a lot of what made the original so special, but not in any way, shape, or form like the Lion King animated one, where the whole point of it working was that they didn't look like real lions. They looked like lions with human expressions. And when you have realistic looking lions, that doesn't fucking work. But
wait a minute. You mean I can't just, recycle the Disney vault and just slap some CGI, faces on them and make it work? That's not going to work. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I think so. Yeah. Well, we got Hercules and we got Snow White coming up next. We'll see how those turn out. But I mean, Little Mermaid was fine. It was fine. It didn't add anything new, but it wasn't like a bad movie. It was what it was, I would say.
That's sad. That's where we're at. Is it was what it was.
The Little Mermaid. John Wollenscroft of the Cinema Psycho Show says it was what it was. Whatever.
Watch it, stupid.
Yeah. Just shove it in your ear and eye holes, fuckface. All right, this one surprised me because I didn't think that anybody would want to see this, and it came out in December, but somehow motherfucking Wonka made $607 million.
Wow. Now that's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen clips of it because like it always shows up on TikTok for some reason. Clips of Wonka, especially like what's his face, who plays the Oompa Loompa in it. He always shows
Hugh
up.
Grant.
Yeah, Hugh Grant. So like it looks cute and funny. I wanted to see it, but just like with most things that happen during the holidays, didn't get a chance to.
I thought it was really weird, like halfway through the movie, where like Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa was dating like the most gorgeous Oompa Loompa in the world, but then he went out and like found a hooker, and then he had to go on to like Willy Wonka's talk show and kind of like confess what he did. You know, I just was like, I don't know about all this, but oh wait, never mind. That didn't happen in the movie.
That sounds like the X-rated version of Wonka.
That sounds like Hugh Grant's personal life. But Spider-Man 2, Spider-Verse 2, Electric Boogaloo made $690 million. I liked that movie. We didn't really talk about it, but I thought it was almost too much animation.
I don't know if I would call it too much animation. I liked it. It continued the story of Miles Morales pretty well. It incorporated the different Spider-Men from the multiverse, I think, really well. But, you know, it was fun. It was a fun, entertaining story. What made me not like it was hearing the stories of, again, the VFX artists and animators who were basically under the gun trying to get that fucking thing done, and then being told, like, guess what? Next year you've got to come out with another one. Have fun, asshole. That being leaked, you know?
That bothered me as well. I did not know going into it that it was part 1 of 2. And when the movie just ended, I was like, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm all for cliffhangers, but it's, you know, the stories that came out with that particular movie was just that, you know, the animators behind it were working insanely long hours to get that thing done.
Sounds about right.
And also just that, like, the filmmakers behind it didn't quite understand how animation works. And that's, I think, a common trope with animated films is that if you have a director who doesn't understand how animation works and thinks that you can just change things on a whim because they're used to working in live action, that's not how animated films work. You have to have a visual and story kind of locked down before you go into rendering frames. And that wasn't the case with the filmmakers behind Spider-Man. They were changing things constantly.
Sounds about right. Yeah. But I guess a franchise that'll never die, it'll never grow old, it'll never die. Fast X made $705 million, Brian. 705.
Why?
Million.
Just like there's no reason that movie should have made any money. That movie should have been done. I didn't even see it, and I thought there's no way this thing is making any money.
Well, you know it's a part 1, right? There's going to be a fast.
No, please don't tell me that. Don't tell me it's a part 1.
Yeah.
Like even with Jason Momoa with his weird like hair thing and all that, like that made a shit ton of money. Is that what you're telling me?
Mm-hmm. Yep. They all as long as there's cars that go vroom and Vin Diesel going family, it'll make money.
Family.
But speaking of a good year for Vin Diesel, number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 made $845 million worldwide.
Again, only like good-ish Marvel film to come out this past year.
Yeah. Then Oppenheimer came in third with $957 million.
Woo!
Yeah.
Change.
A 3-hour talkie movie about the scientist who accidentally created the end of the world. $1 billion. Hey, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Isn't that interesting, John? A movie not based off of a property that is about existential dread that we all face, and is made for adults. Made money.
What? Yeah.
like actually a movie made for grown-ups, you know, you and me.
Well, and the final 2, one not made for adults and one made for all ages. I never thought I thought this movie would do well, but I never thought it would do this well. We've now entered the $1 billion family. The Super Mario Brothers movie made $1.3 billion.
That was a good movie, though. I got nothing against it.
I admitted, like I did on the show, that it was not a film that was meant for me. I still play the games, but I don't have like this place in my heart the way I wanted to see like Michael Keaton as Batman again for it. And I also am not 7 years old either. So I'm like,
you're not?
Really, yeah. Well, maybe mentally. No, 12. Because dick and fart jokes are about 12 years old. But other than that, I'm like, this just isn't made for me. That doesn't mean it's not good. It's just not for me. But I think we all know the highest grossing movie of the year. And that, of course, is Space Jam: A New Legacy, re-released in theaters and made $6 billion. No, Barbie,
I mean, of course that movie is.
Barbie at $1.4 billion. So just
1.4 billion. That's insane.
I didn't see that coming.
I mean, I knew it was going to be big, but I never thought it would be 1.4 billion big.
Yeah.
I thought it would go, honestly, back to like normal levels of box office dollars big, like pre-COVID money. Because that's the thing I think that a lot of people...
Like 585 million or 600
million. Yeah. I thought it would do like Avengers money.
Yeah.
But I never imagined, and I mean like the first Avengers money, not Endgame and all that stuff. No, I'm talking that. Like I never thought that Barbie of all films would gross that much. But here's what it comes down to. What is the movie that we got? The movie we got was not Barbie's Dreamhouse, the movie.
Right.
Well,
there are plenty of those. They're the animated ones that will go straight to like
exactly.
Yeah, it's not that.
And I've seen those because I have a daughter. So like that's what I was expecting to see when I heard the Barbie film was coming. And when I saw the trailers, I'm like, oh yeah, this is absolutely going to be Barbie Dreamhouse, the movie. But, after seeing the official trailer, that's where I'm like, okay, this is something a bit different. Something that maybe is, again, just like Oppenheimer, geared a bit towards grown-ups. And that's, I think, one of the big things I could say about both Barbie and Oppenheimer is they were movies that, yes, you could say kids can enjoy it, people who play with Barbies, but really they're geared towards grown-up problems, right?
Yeah. It's about the nightmare that I can only learn about and listen about, that is being a woman of any age in this fucking society.
Yeah. No, that's what that movie's about. And I think that's why it resonates so much, is because it was not Barbie loves Ken, Barbie and Ken are in a dream house. And it was honestly like, how can we make these characters relevant and speak to issues that Barbie has become synonymous with? Like that's the whole deal there.
When I first heard they were making a Barbie movie, I scoffed at it. I was like, that's going to be stupid, because what we thought, like what it had been before. But then I saw the trailer and went, oh no, this is going to be good. They're leaning into the absurdity of all of it. But there are two movies that I want to talk about in terms of biggest flops.
Besides the Flash?
Well, Flash did better than some of these, but the two that I want to mention are, and I'm looking forward on my list here, Wish, Disney's Wish, that I think they were trying.
I did not see that one.
I don't think anybody did. If you look at the numbers, I think they were trying to go for a, the next Moana, or the next, what's, the snow movie.
Frozen.
Yeah. Well, thanks, brain. I couldn't think of that one. But
it's like 10 o'clock at night. It's okay.
But on a budget of $200 million, it made $107 million. When you don't even take into promotional budget, that is a $93 million loss.
Ouch.
Disney is just hemorrhaging money. But here's the other one, and you're gonna say, John, the audience is, Brian. I know you know how this works. You're gonna say, John, that doesn't really sound like a bad haul, but on a $300 million budget for Indiana Jones, and I still don't know in God's name how that movie cost so much money. But on a $300 million budget, it made $383 million. Now, why is that bad? It's $83 million. That sounds like a decent profit. Well, when you take into consideration that, let's round up and say that the movie theaters take 50% ticket sales for the theater. Now the movie has to make $450 million to break even. You throw in a minimum $150 promotional budget on that thing, which now you got $600 million. And there was some back end deals that weren't reported in the budget that happened after the fact, that now you probably got, let's say, $640 million to break even. And so the movie essentially lost something like $275 million.
Oh, that's bad. That's real bad.
No, and nobody looked at the budget sheet before they started shooting this thing and went, we got to wrangle this the fuck in.
Well, I think part of it is that they saw the Indiana Jones movies, at least the more modern ones, have been all about jet setting, right? It's going to this exotic locale and that exotic locale and really trying to like drive home that, oh yeah, India is going to all these different places. And the thing is, like, you don't have to physically go to those places, but somehow they felt that they had to. And so, like, when you
build
do
some
that,
goddamn sets.
Yeah. Build some fucking sets, and that's it. But no, they felt that they had to go to every different location and shoot there for real, because I guess they looked at it as like, oh, well, those, you get tax breaks with that, which, yeah, you do. But at the same time, it's like, if your budget's ballooning that much, then it's, are those tax breaks really helping?
I don't understand how Indiana Jones 5 could cost more than Avatar 2, but I don't know.
I mean, we did have like a good 20-minute long CGI, Harrison Ford mask on.
Yeah. They should have just put a young mask of Harrison Ford over top of his face. It would have been amazing.
Or here's a crazy concept, and I know no one wants to do this, but like recast someone, like crazy concept there. Recast a younger actor to be Harrison Ford. Like, that's what we used to do back in the day.
Yeah, imagine that. But all right, I'm going to try to do this one in one breath, Brian.
Okay.
So we got not counting books, movies based off sequels, remakes, reboots, and other media. Wonka, Exorcist, True Believer, Scream 6, John Wick Chapter 4, Guardians 3, Transformers, Rise of the Beast, Indiana Jones 5, Mission Impossible 50, Equalizers 3, Expendables 4, Saw X, Evil Dead Rise, House Party, Magic Mike Last Dance, Ant-Man 3, Creed 3, Shazam 3, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, The Super Mario Brothers movie, Renfield, Fast X, The Little Mermaid, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse 2, The Flash, Insidious, The Red Door, Barbie, Haunted Mansion, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Meg 2, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, Blue Beetle, Gran Turismo, The Nun 2, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, Paw Patrol The Mighty Movie, Five Nights at Freddy's, The Marvels, Hunger Games 4, Troll Band Together, Aquaman, Last Kingdom, and The Color Purple.
Bravo.
Hollywood's not out of ideas. Hollywood's not out of ideas.
No, I think they are. They are. I mean, some of those ones that you brought up, like Exorcist, True Believer, I only got 5 minutes in. I got 5 minutes in on it.
And
but some of the... go ahead.
I didn't even go to Tubi to find the 13 Amityville movies that were probably made this year. Yeah.
There's like 50 Amityville movies. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that just speaks volumes that, hey, Hollywood is kind of probably out of ideas.
Yeah. I got this original idea. Get out of my office, you fuck. Yeah.
Well, and you're not even bringing up like the whole Warner Brothers bullshit of writing off movies that are already done. Like the what was the most recent one that got a lot of pushback was the Wile E. Coyote versus Acme movie. You heard about that one?
No, but I could see them just shelving that for tax purposes.
Well, they did. They shelved it, and then I guess it came out recently that they were trying to like shop it around to different streaming platforms, and it actually tested well. Like, it was a movie that, unlike what we were told about Batgirl, which I don't know if I quite believe, personally.
Yeah, release it, you fucks. I want to
Release it, you fucks. David Zaslav, suck my dick. That sort of thing. You know, I don't like this concept of spend a shit ton of money, make the movie, and then write it off right at the end. Don't release it so that you can look good on a balance sheet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't care if you want to say, well, that's the industry. That's not the industry. That's not the industry. That's a new thing. No one did that up until recently.
All right. So let's wrap things up with the top 10 worst movies of the year and the top 10, or I have top 11 because I'm that kind of guy. Top 11 best movies of the year.
All right. So, all right. What do you got?
All right. So I'm going to go from 10 to 1 on each of these here. So worst movies of the year, top 10 or number 10, Scream 6.
Didn't see it. For obvious reasons.
It provided nothing new. It was just, look, we're in a different location, but it's the same beat of every one of these movies you've ever seen. But now you're bored by it because you've seen it 5 other times. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting much, but I was hoping that it wouldn't end up in my top 10 list. Here we are. Number 9, the Exorcist remake, which I didn't even
fuck that movie.
I think, did they just call it The Exorcist?
They called it Exorcist True Believer.
True Believer, that's what it was. Yeah. That's how much I cared about it. I didn't even go and look up the title.
It again continues the strategy of let's go ahead and like reboot or soft sequel boot, you know, the movie, and then add in a classic actor from the original into the film to get, you know, the fans of it to watch, you know. So they added Ellen. What was that?
2 of them.
Oh, 2 of them were in it? I didn't know that.
Linda Blair shows up at the very end of the movie.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Of course she does. But yeah, the biggest one I saw was just Ellen Burstyn in it. So it's like, hey, yeah, we have to have Ellen Burstyn in the movie, which don't get me wrong. Like, I have nothing against Ellen Burstyn, but it's just like, you can't Jamie Lee Curtis this film.
Yeah, pretty much. And is it, well, what was so successful about the first one? Possessed little girl. Well, what can we do for this one? Well, what about 2 possessed little girls? Whoa, that's so different.
And what if we have the original mom from, you know, the first movie come back, because now she's the expert on possession, you know, because she was such an expert in the first movie.
License to print money. Number 8, Ant-Man 3.
Yeah.
The more I sat with it, the more like my stomach kind of hurt. You know, you think maybe if you eat 6 cinnamon rolls in like 3 minutes, your tummy doesn't hurt right away. But then about an hour later, you're like, I'm going to throw up. That's how I feel about Ant-Man 3.
Well, it's also the fact that like that movie came out, and then what was it like? I think maybe it was a month or later or a couple weeks later, you had the whole Jonathan Majors, you know, allegations and all of that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, I don't really know if I want to watch the Kang movie that has Jonathan Majors in it now, even though like I won't discredit him as a talented actor. It just sucks that he's a bad man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Speaking of bad men, number 7, The Flash. I don't think it's only number.
You mean The Criminal?
Yeah. And it's only number 7 on my list because, like, amazingly, there was a lot worse stuff I saw this year than The Flash. The Flash just was more mind-boggling than I would say it was terrible.
You know what? The Flash just proves to me that Hollywood in general doesn't give 2 shits if an actor goes on a crime spree across multiple states and
multiple crimes.
With multiple crimes, and they don't care if their actor goes on a crime spree. They will absolutely do everything in their power to make that movie happen and make that person a star if they've invested tons and tons and tons of money into that thing.
They had to be just sweating bullets and pissing their ass because Ezra's in every scene of the movie.
He is in every scene of the movie.
There's one point where Michael Keaton is sewing up his arm, and I think that's the only time that Ezra Miller is not on screen. But
Very true.
They were fucked. Number 6, Indiana Jones 5 and the Temple of the Old Fuck, or whatever it's called.
The Temple of the Old Fuck. That's a good tagline there.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I know it's like, okay, we have this property and Harrison Ford's still alive. Let's churn out one more of these motherfuckers before he dies. But why? Who was asking for this?
No one was asking for this outside of the studio heads. That's it. That's all it is. And that's the thing, is just like, when you have no ideas and trying to come up with original ideas requires investment. Let's be honest here. There's investment required to bring an idea to fruition. It's a lot easier and it's a safer bet to go with an established property that maybe has some fans who might be on board, right? But it's a lot easier lift, and it's easier to sell to the money people of, oh yeah, we can do Indiana Jones 5. Why? Because, well, you'll get some people who will watch it because it's Indiana Jones. Everyone loves Indiana Jones. And oh yeah, we'll put him in some weird adventure and we'll have him fight Nazis again because we learned our lesson last time that maybe fighting aliens doesn't work out well. But don't worry, we'll throw time travel in it. And bleh.
I will say, though, when I'm like, oh my God, this movie's going to have time travel, and I'm like, this is going to be good because it's going to be so bad. But it's like, oh, a fifth Indiana Jones movie. You're going to get George Lucas to write it? Nah. You're going to get Spielberg to direct it? Nah. You're going to get, what's his face to play, Shia LaBeouf to play his son again? Too weird. What about Sean Connery's dad? Dead. It's like, well, we can get Marion Ravenwood. You know, whatever.
You remember Marion, right? They were married.
Yeah, remember how he like banged her when she was 15 and he was like 30? Thanks, George Lucas.
Yeah, no one wants to talk about that one. No one ever mentions that one. You know, when they're talking about Indiana Jones, they're like, do you realize what he did? She literally says, I was a girl. And she's not saying that as, you know, just kind of off the cuff. No, she really was a child.
Yeah. I think George Lucas wanted her to be even younger, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Are you trying to admit to a crime, rather? Like, is this an admission of a crime that you've done yourself? Like, stop it, George. But
art imitates life, John.
Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah. Number 5, and I swear I didn't do this on purpose, but number 5 is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, fuck that movie.
And here's the thing. I've heard from some people who play the game and said, you would have liked it a lot more if you were a fan of the game. But I've also heard from other people that play the game with, no, the movie still sucked. Like, I love the game, but the movie still sucks. So I don't know. I don't know if it would have helped if I had played this game. But
I'm going with no. I'm going with that movie. It wasn't the worst piece of shit I've ever seen, because I've seen some things, man. I've seen some stuff that's really bad. But it just was boring. That's the worst thing that a movie can be, by the way, is boring. And Five Nights at Freddy's was extremely boring.
And talk about a movie that had no sense of what tone means. You know, it was kind of this absurdist, almost haha, you know, horror movie. But then it'd be like, hundreds of children were murdered and went missing, and you know, and you hear like kids screaming. And I'm like, oh, this is a horror. Wait, what is this? You know, because you don't have like one of those Blumhouse, you know, haha horror movies plus The Exorcist. You don't mash those together, you know, but that's what they were trying to do, I feel, with this one. My number 4, and I think I might have been the only person that saw this because it went to streaming right away, and that's where I saw it, was Last Voyage of the Demeter.
I did not see it. I wanted to, just because I like Dracula movies and I like those sorts of things. But here's the problem with that movie, is like, I already know how it ends.
Yeah, that is a problem. That is always a problem. But I was like, yeah, I mean, like, there's so much that you can tackle there, because, you know, it's always told where, okay, Dracula was put on the boat and everybody got sick and people lost their minds. But then all of a sudden Dracula is, you know, in the new world. Okay. But like, what happened on the boat? That would be kind of interesting to explore. You know, it's kind of like, it reminds me somewhat, I guess, of like Rogue One. It's like, how did they get the plans of the Death Star? You could tell that whole story, but it was just so bland and so boring. I could tell that it was from a director that wasn't overly talented, but also was too afraid to try anything. And it's like what you just said about Five Nights at Freddy's. for a movie about a vampire haunting essentially a pirate ship, that type of shit. It was so fucking boring. Like, how do you make that movie boring? I don't get it.
I mean, it kind of read to me, like, again, watching the trailer for it, it read very much just like a Sci-Fi Channel type take on the Demeter. Like, it didn't feel like a movie. It felt like this is something we planned it. COVID happened, had to get it out there. So yeah, that's it.
So much promise, so little return. But number 3, Shazam the Deuce.
Yeah.
And look,
sad.
And I know some people might say, well, this movie was sabotaged by Johnson the Dwayne Rock.
Johnson the Dwayne Rock.
Because, Black Adam is supposed to be a villain and Shazam's major villain. He went, no, I'm too big and important. I want Black Adam to have his own movie and be an anti-hero. But I don't care if The Rock had been in this movie still would have blown chunks.
This movie, like, I liked the first Shazam. Yeah. I really did. I thought it was cute, and it was a breath of fresh
air from the rest of the DCU.
Yeah. But like, this movie suffers from the curse of adding too much shit in one movie. Mm-hmm. Like, you've got the whole thing with the gods trying to like destroy Earth in some way, and then there's Wonder Woman thrown in there because, hey, we have to have that, and then spoiler alert, Shazam dies for like half a second, but he's brought back because, let's be honest here, no one's gonna kill a kid. Mm-hmm. And that's what Shazam is. He's a kid.
Well, Shazam's trying to fuck Wonder Woman, and it's like,
he is very much trying to fuck
Wonder
Woman.
Aren't you 13?
I don't think he's 13. I think he's like 18. So that's kind
Billy
of
supposed to be 18.
Billy's supposed to be like 17, 18, because like the whole crux of that movie is that he is like aging out of the foster parents he has. So like he's afraid that he's going to have to like leave his home, which, okay, I guess that's a character development for you. But yeah, he totally is trying to bang Wonder Woman.
Well, that's of age for like human beings, but let's also acknowledge the fact that Wonder Woman's like 350 years old or something like that.
Plus, we all know Batman is tapping Wonder Woman. Like that's what everyone knows.
Yeah.
Not Superman.
I'm Scatman. Yeah. Number 2, I had to see it because I only saw it because it was streaming for free, and I knew I had to fill out my top 10 movies of the year list. Was Fast X, number 2. And look, I have my guilty pleasures. I like my stupid crap too, but this isn't my stupid crap. So I watch this, and all I can do is sit there and be like, who the fuck does this appeal to? Except 12-year-olds on energy drinks with no attention spans. Like, they just keep getting worse and more over the top and pointless and insulting. Intellectually insulting. That, again, I'm not throwing stones and glass. I've got my guilty pleasures too, but the Fast franchise ain't one of them. It's so stupid, Brian.
You know what, John? Like, here's my whole contention on it. And again, this is coming from someone who refuses to see any of them at all. But man, like, when the characters have a command center. Because I'm assuming in Fast X they still have a command center.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
it's basically the Batcave. Yeah,
I was gonna say they have a command center. They have a Batcave. So like at that point, any sort of desire for movies about cars are pretty much gone, and instead you're getting like Avengers go vroom vroom.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right, and like that's it. So like the people who like Avengers are probably seeing crossover with Fast X. And the people who like the car part maybe see a little bit of crossover, and that's why they're going to it. But I guess what just gets me is like, the movies still make money despite having no redeemable plot at all. Like, I think the last one you probably could point to is the one that Paul Walker was in. That was the last one where they'd CGI'd his face after he passed away. That's probably the last one you could say like, hey, yeah, that's a genuine Fast movie, right?
I think that was 7.
Well, I don't know which one it was.
I watched
I've
them all
lost
one
track.
day. It's a blur. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just, and I could not do that, by the way, ever. But yeah, I keep waiting for the day that they stop making them. But I don't think that day's ever going to come. I just don't. They're going to be doing, drifting in wheelchairs at this point.
I think what they're going to do is a lot of offshoots. Like, they did Hobbs and Shaw with Rock and Jason Statham. I think they're going to probably do more Hobbs and Shaws, and they'll give.
Did that one make any money?
I think it did. Yeah, not fast money, not main franchise money, but it still did all right for itself. But yeah, we have Fast 11 coming out next, so God help us all.
Sake.
Yeah, they're always the same movie too. It's always some guy from Dom's past who now is an evil terrorist who wants to destroy Dom and his family, but also destroy the world at the same time, and only Dom and his cars can save the day.
Doesn't it become a thing where like the villain ends up becoming part of the family, and now they're like buddies?
Yeah, John Cena tried to destroy the world in the last movie, and now because he's Dom's brother and because he helped Dom in the last 2 minutes of Fast 9, he's like a good guy now.
Doesn't Charlize Theron do the same thing too? Isn't she like a good guy now?
No. So she only joined Dom and his group because Jason Momoa killed all her goons. And so she's like, I'm trying to save you and your family because I saw what you're up against. Aquaman beat up all my men and shit.
It's like, okay, Furiosa.
Yeah. But number one here, and I think a lot of people miss this movie. It was one of those trailers that I think we all went, that looks interesting. I'd like to see that. But this is not what I thought it was going to be when I saw it. Was Dream Scenario starring Nicolas Cage.
I forget what that one was about.
So here's the premise of the movie. Nick Cage is appearing in everyone's dreams, and he doesn't do anything.
Oh shit! Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and this movie is a thinly veiled. We live in unfounded cancel culture, and innocent people are being challenged by the woke mob for things they didn't do. And I'm like, this is just fucking horseshit. This is Hollywood saying, no, we don't do anything wrong. Maybe Harvey Weinstein didn't do anything wrong. Maybe you're wrong. And I was like, this actually makes me sick, because as it goes on, the dreams start to be where Nick Cage starts to attack people in the dreams, or threaten people in the dreams, or even kill people in their dreams. And they try to cancel the actual Nicolas Cage when he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. They're just dreams. They're just making it up. And they went, yeah, wow. But you still have to accept the consequences. And he's like, but I didn't do anything. And I'm like, this is what every celebrity that gets caught says, like, oh, it's just the woke mob coming after me. Like, no, there are consequences to your behavior. But instead they did it like the worst propagandic Republican natured South Park episode I've ever seen in my life. That's what this movie is.
Yeah, because I don't know how you can equate showing up in someone's dreams the same way as, like, I don't know, saying that this group of people should be exterminated.
Well, Brian, that's your hurt feelings are something you made up. I didn't really do anything wrong. You just made it all up.
No, that's not how things work. That's not how things work. And I always go back to this: is that you are, there's freedom of speech. You can say whatever the hell they want.
But there's consequences to your freedom.
But there's always consequences. And those consequences aren't necessarily that you're going to be jailed, right? And that's what the freedom of speech is that you're freedom from being jailed, but you're not free to say whatever you want and not suffer any consequences. That's just that's how life works,
It's that old saying, if you yell fire in a crowded theater.
Well, that actually is illegal. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But I just mean, I think some people think that you can say what you want on the internet, no matter how atrocious that might be. And that, oh, well, you're protected from any consequences because you said it on the internet. Freedom of speech. That's not how it works, And I think it all goes back to the anonymous nature of the internet, But now it's people don't care if they're anonymous anymore.
Yeah. But I remember, just to put a bow, and I remember watching the movie, and I just remember yelling at the screen of how I thought that this movie was deplorable in its message. And yeah, fuck that movie. Nick Cage, I still love you, baby. Still love you. Vampire's Kiss, you gave me that. I'll always love you. But goddamn, why did you agree to do this movie? But all right. So let's talk about the good instead of the bad. Number 11, Saltburn, and its 4:3 aspect ratio goodness.
No, I don't like it.
You don't?
I don't like. No, I hated it.
You hated Saltburn.
Here's the thing. I didn't hate it, but and maybe it's because of the fact that I am desensitized to this shit. You know, like I have seen some movies, John, that honestly make Saltburn look like a kid's movie, you know? So like for me, Lauren and I watched it and we were just like, this is really boring and very predictable. And like the scene where he is fucking the grave, I thought was stupid because I was literally yelling at the screen in my head because obviously I can't do that, in person. But I was saying like, just cut the fucking shot. Like just fucking cut the shot. And the whole time he's like, he takes his dick out, starts fucking the ground. And I'm just like, why? What? And then you find out like, oh, they improvised the whole thing. I'm like, okay, good job. Cut the fucking shot. Go into close up because it's just lazy filmmaking. That's like one of those things where it's style over substance. I didn't find it that shocking. You want a shocking movie? And I even said this on Threads. I was like, because someone said, oh, well, what do people think of Saltburn? And I said, yeah, you know what? If I wanted to watch a shocking movie, I watched Requiem for a Dream. That's a movie that if you don't come out of that movie saying, I will never touch drugs again, there's something wrong with you. But no, I didn't really care for it.
See, I'm glad that we had this conversation because I have noticed how polarizing this movie is. And just really out of curiosity, how did you make of the bathtub scene? Or as I call that, making love soup.
You can throw that on me without me knowing.
He's making the broth.
I love the fact we're live, by the way, doing this. Like, of course, you picked the day that I decide us to do Instagram and YouTube live to throw the love soup on. But no, I thought it was gross. I really did. I thought it was a gross scene. I don't understand why it was there. Like a lot of the scenes in this movie, I'm like, why is that there? What does that add anything other than just like this guy's obsessed with this person and has to drink his cum?
Oh, Brian, don't act like you've never slurped up bathtub cum water.
No, haven't. It's not my thing. Listen, I don't judge anyone's kink, but like that's just not my thing.
Well, speaking of cum, number 10 on my list, May December.
I haven't seen that one yet. It's a
movie that I enjoy very much because it's a challenging movie where they're not excusing because it's more than loosely based on the whole Mary Kay Letourneau. And,
I kind of figured as much.
They're basically without using their names, they're hitting a lot of that beat by beat, but changing a few things here and there. It's basically what I call like the Law and Order SVU tactic, where you change just enough not to get sued. But they have Natalie Portman, who's going to play Julianne Moore, who is the woman that had sex with an underage kid in a movie, and the movie is intelligent enough to not try to tell you that Julianne Moore is a bad person, because you shouldn't have to be told that. You should know that by her actions, and it's more just an exploration of how are these people living their lives after all the scandal and all the time in jail has been served, and as the movie goes on, you really just see just the true repercussions of what this had on to a now man who never really became a man, was always a boy because he had his childhood torn away from him. And it's nuanced. I think the music's terrible, but that's my only complaint. But it's a nuanced take on this that I appreciated, not hitting me over the head with what I already knew, which is any person that has sex with a child is a monster.
You mean like we shouldn't be supportive of female teachers who do that, because that seems to be what society tends to do?
Nice. Like that South Park episode. It's like, my brother is having sex with
Nice.
his teacher. Nice.
Yeah, no, it's still gross.
Number 9 for me, and I know probably people might find it surprising this far down the list, was Barbie.
Yeah, I get why you put it down there. I get why you put it down there.
But but I think we've kind of talked about Barbie pretty much.
We did, and honestly, like, here's the thing, and when I was sitting in the theater, and I think I may mention this during our review of Barbie, is that movie isn't made for us, and that's okay.
But I love movies that aren't made for me. I love movies about experiences that aren't mine, because that's how you grow as a human being.
That's right, but that's what I'm saying is like that might be the reason why it wasn't as far down, because even though we can appreciate experiences that aren't male centered, right? It's probably more of a stretch for us to casually enjoy, ones that aren't necessarily directed straight at us.
Yeah. And because I think you always have to take bias into anybody's take on movies. So, got to take age, gender, race, ethnicity, creed, what have you, as how you're going to see movies. So, maybe Barbie would have been higher on my list if I hadn't been, middle-aged white male neckbeard. Who knows? But number 8, Anatomy of a Fall.
I didn't see that one. I'm terrible, John. I haven't seen half these movies.
You got 4 kids, Brian. I've got a dog who I can just throw in a crate whenever I want. That makes me sound like
I can't throw my kids in a crate. Yeah. That would be illegal.
But I never keep her in there for more than 3 hours at a time, and then she gets treats and walks. But because I don't want to sound like a horrible dog father, as she's playing with toys right now. But yeah, it's a great exploration of a man has died. Did he commit suicide, or was he murdered by his wife? And the movie, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it, the movie never gives you a definitive answer, because it's more about what the people are going through, and what they went through before and what they went through after is more important than giving you an exact answer. Because a lot of times in life, you never get complete answers. And I like any movie that doesn't just hit every narrative beat to an exact happy ending, or the ending that you think you're going to get, because life doesn't always give you answers, and neither does this movie.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out.
Number 7, for anybody that is interested in the movies I'm listing off, this one is on Netflix. If you got Netflix, Maestro, the new Bradley Cooper
movie. I haven't seen that one. Lauren and I have been wanting to watch that one just because of the controversy that kind of came about with it. Which, if you don't know what the controversy is, there was some hubbub about the fact that they put a quote unquote Jewish nose on Bradley Cooper.
Well, yeah, he's also a Gentile playing a Jew. I mean, but Leonard's family gave the blessing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Brian, you are Jewish. You would have a better take
I
on
use
that
that Jewish thing very lightly, man. I mean, that's the thing.
But your take is more important than mine.
My take is I don't care.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm not a quote unquote practicing Jew, although honestly, you talk to any Jewish person, they always say like, hey, if you were born Jewish, you are Jewish, it doesn't matter. But I really didn't care too much. Now I can see where people might say like, hey, the actor playing Leonard Bernstein, is someone who isn't Jewish. Would be nice if we had a Jewish actor who could be in that. But I also go with like, if you get a Jewish actor, are they going to be the best actor for that role? Because ultimately, a movie about a character like this was real life. There's nuance to that character, and you have to make sure that you are portraying that real person in a light that works for the story they're trying to tell. And so if Bradley Cooper was able to do it, then why not him play it? Now, did they have to throw prosthetic nose in him? Probably not, but that's common practice in Hollywood. You throw prosthetics on people all the time.
But if Leonard Bernstein was a made-up character, I would say, yeah, that's pretty offensive.
Yes.
But like, I think they were trying to match his actual profile.
They were trying to make him, because of biopic,
yeah,
right? They're trying to make it look like the real person, which they've been doing that for decades. Prosthetic makeup has been used for decades to make actors look like other people. Now, again, as you said, if it was a stereotype type thing, or if it's like, hey, we want Bradley Cooper to play someone who isn't a real Jewish person and be a caricature, then yes, that's offensive. Just as Mickey Rooney playing a Japanese person, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Brian, that couldn't have never happened.
That's happened. That's offensive, right? So, those sorts of things, they're different. I don't equate the two.
Well, yeah, and I wouldn't throw Bradley Cooper under the bus, folks. If you want to save your anti-Semitism, save it for Roald Dahl and the Witches and J.K. Rowling and Green God's Bank. There's your anti-Semitism. But I would say this for anybody that's looking at, is it a good story? Yeah. Is the acting great? Yes. Is Maestro unbelievably self-indulgent? You better fucking believe it.
Aren't all biopics self-indulgent though, John?
But this is Bradley Cooper also celebrating theater and film in it to almost a masturbatory effect. I overlooked it because I guess probably because I have the same bias towards theater and film that Bradley Cooper does. So I kind of overlooked it, but it is very, very, very self-indulgent.
Okay. Fair enough.
Number 6, Oppenheimer.
Yeah. That makes sense why it's number 6.
How could you not mention this? And I know some people might go, it's just a bunch of people talking. I'm like, all I could say to that is grow the fuck up.
The biggest thing I had against Oppenheimer when we watched it, and I mentioned it on our review, was just that it doesn't dive further enough into the carnage that the atomic bomb unleashed. It's very subdued. It's very much shown kind of in abstract terms. And I know why they did that. I've talked to a bunch of people since we did that review, John, and they were like, you don't understand. We're looking at this from Oppenheimer's point of view. He wasn't there. He didn't see the effects of the atomic bomb, and that's why we didn't see it. And but I tend to go back but movies have the ability to show two things happening at different times. That's a possibility. And so I understand why they didn't show, the bomb going off, why they tended to go with more of a dream sequence type deal. But it just felt that a movie that had such a repercussion on an entire population that to this day, the people of Japan still deal with the legacy of, to not really mention it other than a 10 to 15 minute sequence is kind of just disappointing. And my wife, I think I mentioned this in the review, she really didn't care for the movie because she's like, I don't want to watch a movie that glorifies the atomic bomb. I understand where she's coming from. I do.
Yeah, because even movies that are pointing out the faulty of that type of stuff by just them being Hollywood big budgeted movies, you almost accidentally glorify it. You look at Spielberg with Saving Private Ryan showing the horror of D-Day, but you can't help but feel that just by the editing, the cinematography, the sound design, the slow motion, that this is also simultaneously in almost a psychological backwards unconscious way glamorizing this battle sequence.
It is
even if you are trying to show the horror of it. So yeah, there's always going to be that challenge when you talk about, the inventor of the eventual end of the world.
Well, I think it's just a thing where, we clearly have a good guy in Oppenheimer and we have a bad guy in Strauss. And it's one of those things where, let's be honest here, none of them are good guys.
No.
And that's I think where the criticism can come into play is that, Oppenheimer thought he was doing what was right at the time. And his only positive is he felt that it needed to be controlled. But you can't control a weapon like this. You cannot. And, I understand, like I have some people were like, oh, well, you don't understand. It was a different time and they had different intelligence back then. I'm like, yeah, but they still knew that the Germans were way behind on this thing. Mm-hmm. They knew they were still beating them. They knew that was going to happen. You're telling me that, that they had to drop the atomic bomb on Japan? No. They knew they were going to surrender. It's called, they wanted to show a weapon to the Soviets. It had nothing to do with Japan. It had nothing to do with trying to save, the Americans from a devastating ground invasion. It was called, I want to show Stalin that we have a bigger stick than they do.
Yeah. And, and I don't mean to be facetious when I use a quote from X2, X-Men United, but there's a scene in that movie when Brian Cox, the main villain in it, Stryker, they say, like, you don't really need to do this. And he said, well, I'm a scientist. When I invent a new thing, I want to make sure it's working. And I think that was America's approach to, well, let's drop the bomb in Japan, even though we don't need to, because we invented this. Let's make sure it works.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. Is we spent X amount of dollars on this thing. We got to show how it works. And we have to show to the international community, and especially to the Russians, that, hey, yeah, we have a device.
We're the greatest now. We're the only great power now. Yeah.
So it's just, again, like, I understand why my wife was very much just like, I don't find this movie enjoyable.
I get it.
It glorifies it. And, I understand that. I find history interesting because I think that analyzing history allows us to kind of hopefully avoid it. But, modern times are telling me that's not always the case. And yeah.
Number 5, The Holdovers.
That was a really good movie. I loved that movie.
It's
a lot.
I don't know how you get 3 simultaneously brilliant character studies in one movie, but all 3 of the principal main characters. And this is just a good fucking movie about people, and Brian, we joked about how, when I ran off that list earlier in the episode, where I took that huge breath and ran off everything that's based on a comic book, video game, whatever. This is an original fucking story about people. Imagine that, and
it's fucking funny. Like, there are some funny scenes in this. When the one kid goes in the gym and Paul Giamatti's like, "Don't do it." He's like, he just does it. He jumps off the
blood curdling scream.
Yeah, you just hear this blood curdling scream. And the thing is like, it's a movie that honestly, in the first 10 minutes, you might get bored by it. And like, I know my wife and we both got bored with it, and then I picked it up kind of just like on an evening where I had some time to myself, and I'm like, I'll watch the rest of this. And that's when I found that it was really a good movie, and it was really special, and it had a lot to it that the first 10 minutes really don't give you.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's the movie version of, you got to get through the first 7 episodes of season 1, and then the show's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, I could see that being the case, but it's very much true that once you get through about 10 minutes of it, then it gets really good.
Number 4 here, Killers of the Flower Moon. I think of Dr. Strangelove, and then or How I Learned to Stop Worrying, Love the Bot. This movie should be called Killers of the Flower Moon, or Given the Opportunity, White People Will Kill You for Your Money. What's that? Minorities have money. Kill them and take it. We're white, damn it.
Yeah, I didn't see this one. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. It's on my list of ones that I want to see. Because obviously it's Martin Scorsese, it's Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's a story I think it's based off a true story, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's horrific. Like, when you break down like what happens, I'll spare you the details since you haven't seen it, but like what happens in it, and then when if you look in your history, kind of how all the horrific stuff really didn't even matter in the end, and it's just like, is this not what white colonization is? In a nutshell. I don't know if the movie needed to be 3.5 hours. I wasn't even bored, but I checked my phone at about the 2-hour mark, And I'm like, there's 90 more fucking minutes to this movie. My ass hurts. But
that's a movie that you just stand and watch.
yeah,
You're like, it's an exercise for you.
I get why some people like a movie like this. Like, I'll watch it when it comes to my house because I can pause if I have to take a piss, or I can pause to make a hot pocket.
Well, if you got one of those Dune popcorn buckets, you can just put your dick in it and piss.
Yeah. Or, if it's just tickling just right.
That's if you're going to watch Madam Web.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think of like, what's a Star Wars character that would have a vagina like that? But it's like fucking the Sarlacc pit,
It is basically fucking the Sarlacc pit.
Maybe it won't digest people over thousands of years if it just got banged every once in a while.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, interesting fact, just to wrap it up. Killers of the Flower Moon lost like $30 million. So even some of the best movies out there. Yeah, so this movie inexplicably cost $200 million when it's mostly a bunch of white people talking about how to steal money from indigenous people. I'm like, where did the 200 million go? But I don't know. Number 3, which I thought for the longest time was going to be my number 1, hands down, but it moved down 2 slots. Poor Things.
Now that's one I really want to see.
Oh, it's so good.
Really want to see.
I mean, I could see how some people are turned off by it because it's surrealist, but it's a movie that's simultaneously somewhat grounded, but in a completely surrealist world. It's like almost if you put logic into Alice in Wonderland. And that's
interesting.
Yeah, and the visuals are beautiful. The allegory is tight. The characters are fascinating. The Emma Stone's character, like her journey is immaculate. It's beautiful to look at. Everything about it just works. However, is it fucking weird? You're damn right it is. Is it surrealistic in a lot of ways? Yes, it is.
See, I love movies like that.
Me too.
I love those.
I can see how some people could be watching Brazil, and I'm not necessarily comparing this movie to Brazil, but kind of going, what the hell? What's going on in this movie? But yeah, I think sometimes people that like to be grounded in reality, I think a movie like this they might be like, what the fuck am I looking at here?
Yeah, the other thing I got from it was that it kind of was. I heard one person compare it to Frankenhooker.
That's fair. That's more than fair. Imagine Frankenhooker with a better director and about $150 more million.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I think one person was like, "Yeah, this is Frankenhooker."
But number 2, American Fiction.
That one I haven't seen yet.
It's so fucking good, and I hate, when there is something called clapter, where if I was on Weekend Update and I made a joke that basically was Donald Trump sucks, and the liberal audience who came to watch Weekend Update go, yay, hoo-hoo, yay. It's like, what do we really do except all just agree and we did laugh clapter. It's a lower form of observation. This movie reminded me of Get Out in only one way, in the sense that it challenged white people's perceptions of how they perceive, the African American community or any community that's not their own. The idea that you can't have a black voice unless it's what white people want to hear to feel better about being white.
Interesting.
And I'm like, I like that this movie challenged the fuck out of me and challenged my white liberalism and be like, oh, maybe I can be the bad guy as much as I would like to think I'm one of the good guys. Like, no, maybe, people like myself put people in holes and say, no, this is how it has to be, because we white people have to always be emotionally protected and be the good ones and the saviors. So we want you to write about stories about black people going from the ghetto and being uplifted. You can't just write a novel as a black person. It has to be something about the quote unquote black experience, but what we white people see as the black experience, so that we can applaud and go, we're the good ones.
Interesting.
And
I gotta see this one.
And it's fucking hysterical, because this is a comedy. I mean, it's as much a comedy as it is a serious movie, but like it's fucking hilarious. So yeah, I really recommend.
Yeah, I'll
seeing
check it
that.
out. I am all for being challenged
Yeah.
in cinema. Especially when that challenge is not coming from kind of a preachy type thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like movies that aren't necessarily like preaching you, but like just through their narrative challenging you. Those things I'm all for.
And number one here, this is not only just my number one movie of the year, but this might be the best movie I've seen in maybe 5 years or more, because it's a movie that is fucking challenging and went balls to the wall in its bravery and how it presented the movie. And I don't know how any mainstream studio released a movie like this, because it is so goddamn again, just intellectually challenging to the audience. That is The Zone of Interest.
I haven't seen that one either. I'm terrible.
Oh, I mean, right. It's a movie. It's a true story about the guy who lives in a luxury house right next to, I believe it's Auschwitz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's about a German Nazi and his family. And it's about the banality of evil, because the whole time that they're doing things in the backyard, like celebrating the dad's birthday, his surprise birthday party in the backyard, or the kids, swimming in the pool, which is all based on real images of this person. Literally, you can see the top of the gas chambers and the holding cells right over the wall of their house. And the sound engineering in this movie is they're going through what you would see as just very simple everyday life shit that you have to go through if you're a good person, but they're going through it, but you're hearing gunshots and people screaming and running and more gunshots while they're going over the most banal things of everyday life. And it's like, for them to make us explore that without any heroes in this movie. Everybody in the movie is the worst person on the planet, because he's there because he invented a new way of cremating the bodies to make it quicker and faster because of how many people they're killing on a daily basis.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And, they're having fights over him. Like he and his wife are having fights over him having to leave to go do, stuff at another location. And she's like, I don't want to leave our house. That we lived our whole life for this. We built this. And you're hearing gunshots the whole time they're talking. And like her mother leaves, like the main wife of the house, her mother leaves because she can't deal with the sounds across the thing. And she's all upset because her mother's not there to help raise the kids. And it's just like, and you're thinking about, you people are living next to the worst atrocity of hundreds of years, and you somehow have turned a blind ear to the fucking nightmare that is right behind your wall. And then, Brian, the movie so beautifully opens up with about 7 minutes of strange noises and screams on a black screen. And I thought for sure, at first the projector wasn't working, but it was, no, the director wanted you to deal with what you don't see.
That's the best. I mean, that's not the best in terms of like the subject matter's good.
Oh yeah, it's horrific. It's a fucking nightmare. I mean,
yes,
the Holocaust is a fucking nightmare. And apparently, here's what he did as the cinematographer, and they were never on set with the actors. They set cameras up either in plain sight or behind like trees and stuff like that, where the actors didn't know where they were. Yeah. And the actors knew they're blocking, and they ran the scenes with nobody on set. They were mic'd with like lav mics, and the whole production crew were in trucks, and they let the actors just run their scenes with just them on site with like 10 cameras set up at a time. Some they knew were there, some they weren't. And they just did the scenes with no production people there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I have to check that one out.
Yeah, for a movie to so brazenly make us watch evil.
Kind of reminds me of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that one kind of is, again, showing like the dichotomy of, the horrors of the Holocaust and the everyday German person, right? Like that sort of thing. But yeah, the thing is, it's hard for me to watch movies like that for obvious reasons. But it's just, I think movies like this have to be seen so that we kind of like understand that these sorts of evil things, they're not relics of the past. They happen every day, and it's really easy to get numb to it. It's really easy to kind of turn your brain off to it and go like, oh yeah, that stuff's happening over there. It's not affecting me. But it is. And, you know, you have to kind of still, you know, have your sense of outrage, or else you become like those fuckers.
And look, I'll wrap it up with this, that I think Schindler's List is one of the greatest films of all time. But, you know, it's grounded in Oscar Schindler and his attempt to do what was right. The movie's called Schindler's List, not, you know, whatever Ray Fiennes' character's name was in that.
Amon Goth.
Yeah, Amon Goth, that damn Schindler guy got in the way of my final solution. You know, it's about goodness triumphing because we can't deal with looking at just complete evil. And this movie forces us to just watch complete evil and doesn't give us a break. And that's not going to be for everybody. But the fact that there's not a redeeming person in this movie, and the only thing that's redeeming in the movie is yourself while you watch this nightmare unfold, that was the reality of that world. If we were to appear as ghosts at this person's house where we couldn't touch or affect anything, this is what we would have seen if we time traveled back and just watched this world. And that to me is why it's so beautifully challenging in a way that I know some people are going to be like, I never ever want to see that movie.
Fair enough. Yeah, but good list.
Yeah.
Good list. Gonna have to watch that now, and drink heavily while watching it.
That would have helped. Yeah,
that would help. I mean, obviously, 2023, there were a lot of things that we wanted to include in this, but we're coming up on 2 hours. And remember, John, I told you I wanted to keep it to 1 hour, but sure enough,
yeah,
sure enough, that's the case. That's okay. But I mean, good recap of the year. I'm curious to see how this year goes when it comes to film. My guess is just that we'll have more shitty films.
I think this year's going to be really, really shitty because just like with, well, for one obvious reason, but just like 2020, how they pushed everything back because of, the pandemic. I think because of the writer's strike, I think like a lot of movies that were supposed to come out this year that we're all going, oh, I can't wait to see that, I think are pushed back. So that's
that's true.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a thin year, but that's going to be because of the strike. But good on the strike because fuck the studios and their cheap miserly ways.
That's right. Good talk, John. So, John, where can they find you at on the internets?
Over on the Twitter X, Instagrams, and the Facebooks, and finally, it's happened.
I was gonna say, you finally did it. It only took you 6 months, if not 9. I think 9 months. I think you mentioned it in July.
I think that's when I was like talking about I was gonna write it. Yeah, and then I finally got it like done in early fall, and then I switched to Halloween, and I switched to Christmas, and now here we are at the end of February. But I like it a whole lot. I hope y'all will too. My look on Dirty Harry as a character and as a film. And dealing with the fascisti, and coming up, this one won't take as long because it's an interview and they go a little quicker, is my interview with Mr. McFeely from Mr. Rogers, and I'm currently writing my So Many Questions on Demolition Man.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, but you can find me at Brian Coddington on X, Twitter. Is that what we're calling it?
Let's call it Twitter because that pisses off Elon Musk.
Yeah. You also can follow us at Psycho Show. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show. You can also find us on our Discord channel. The link for it's in the description of this episode. And of course, be sure to head over to our TikTok account. We have a TikTok account, still kicking out videos there. I think we're at like 2.7 million on one of them, which is insane. But yeah, the link for that is Cinema Psycho Show, all one word. And of course, be sure to follow us on all of the podcast platforms, and especially YouTube, since we are putting out videos just like this for your eyeballs to consume. So subscribe there, and we will see you next time.
Just kidding. The true best movie of the year was Space Jam: A New Legacy. It didn't even need to come out this year. It's just the greatest movie every year.